Hello, I'm Jacques Morel here with M&A Television, and I'm here with Jim Hill. How are you, sir?
Very well, thank you.
Good. Can you tell me a little bit about your business and what you do?
Be happy to. I run a law firm's private equity practice. The name of the firm is Benesh. We're 200 plus lawyers. We have 7 offices. And my primary function in the firm, I used to be managing partner, but now I get to spend more time with clients, which is more fun. And my primary function is running our private equity group, which is primarily focused on middle market buyout funds across the country, some actually overseas too. I think our mean size of fund is about $480 million. So that gives you some idea of, that's kind of classic middle market.
Wow. So how tried and true are the best M&A practices evolving to address the current market conditions?
Well, the best M&A practices I think have changed. Actually, the panel I'm going to be on this afternoon speaking about diligence, how diligence has changed pretty dramatically. I think it's a time both with private equity firms and with strategic buyers where a lot of things have changed. It requires more upfront expense on diligence if you're in an auction process. It requires a lot more, if you're not a strategic buyer, it requires a lot more industry knowledge of the industry that the target may be in. And it also requires, I think firms have come to find out, particularly private equity firms, it requires an ongoing, never-ending tenacity to find deals that are not necessarily auctions, which requires you to network in certain industries and makes it a much more intense process than it used to be. And you know, the capital markets are highly efficient today. So if you are on an auction, you better have a real good reason to be in the auction, meaning industry knowledge, people within your team who have industry knowledge, and have an angle.
Wow. So what is the single most important thing that you think buyers should be aware of in deal making in the next year?
The single most important thing for buyers, I would say, is probably there will be a lot of sales of companies the next year because the capital gains probably increasing in 2013. Though there will always be a lot of private equity sales. I think what buyers really have to look at, more importantly than ever, is how do I really create value in this company once I bought it?
Okay.
You know, when I was a young corporate lawyer, we always used to...
A young corporate lawyer.
A young corporate lawyer. No, I'm just a middle-aged corporate lawyer. But when I was a young corporate lawyer, we used to say, you know, you make money on the buy, you make money on running the company, you make money on the sell. I tend to think, with some rare exceptions, you don't make money on the buy unless you happen to find something out in the middle of nowhere that no one else is.
Why don't you make money on the buy nowadays?
Because most of the sales of companies today are auctions. So it's a very efficient market, and you're not going to pay a low multiple for a company that's being auctioned. On the sell side, really depends on the economy. You know, right now we're in an economy, again, if you have a good company, multiples are high because leverage is relatively high for middle market lending sources. But on the other hand, where firms will really make their money, both strategic and financial buyers, is going to be in improving operations.
Can you share with us a significant financial news event that's lying just ahead of us?
Well, I think something that we're going to see more and more of. It's evolving. I think you're going to see a number of private equity firms that raised funds in 2004, 2005, some in 2006. Not large funds, sometimes first-time funds that may have a lot of difficulty raising another fund. And so you may, because their record hasn't been that good. They had trouble. They probably overpaid for them at the time. They're having trouble, if you will, fixing them, given the economy. And so, you know, you need realizations in order to go out and raise your next fund. If your realizations aren't particularly stellar, and you're not like, this isn't Fund 6, but it's Fund 2, you're going to see some of those funds kind of bleed out their portfolio companies, and they may not be around. Now, some people will give you such dire statistics as 30% of private equity firms that exist today won't be around in 5 to 6 years. I don't believe that.
So are you an optimist?
I'm an optimist. I think it's not as dire a circumstance for most portfolio companies and those firms as some people believe, but I do think you will see a thinning of the herd.
What challenges do you see emerging for deal makers in the next year?
Well, the biggest challenges, of course, will be the economy. You know, it's a funny situation. A year and a half ago, when the economy was pretty moribund, let's say 2 years ago, it was very moribund, sellers would say, don't look at my trailing 12 months of EBITDA. look at my future 12 months. And if you're a buyer, you're saying, yeah, but I'm not so sure the next 12 months is going to be any better than the previous 12 months. Now you're actually having sellers say, because the economy, had an uplift and now it's kind of gone back down, not dramatically down, but some down. You're having sellers say, look at my trailing 12 months, and buyers are saying, what about your next 12 months? That's what they're really concerned about. So that's the biggest challenge for buyers, is trying to discern, where is our economy going? Will there be some uptick? And it's an interesting phenomenon, because on the other hand, the tension is that either be you a strategic, once you bought your first company, you're a strategic. Most growth these days will not come through organic growth, because the economy is simply not growing in the vast majority of industries. So you have to be acquisitive. So it's a challenge to be acquisitive, create growth, and yet you're still worried about what the earnings are going to be. Right.
All right, thank you for talking with me today.
My pleasure.
No problem.